I never thought like I would become good friends with like kids from Brooklyn, but I did. I was like, yo, y'all from Brooklyn, I'm from the Bronx. And then even when I came back to the city, we kind of still hung out sometimes. Like I'm pretty good friends with some of the kids that I met up there from Harlem. And it was just like, oh, like when we go back to the city, we gotta hang out. So
Thank you for tuning in to the Mile 40 podcast. I am Bishoy Tadros, the author of Break Barriers and Audacious, both of which are sold on Amazon. And I invite you to join me as I engage with guests to discuss those bounce back moments that we encounter on our personal journey. Mile 40 is a forum to learn about how athletes, professionals, and leaders of all backgrounds stare down moments in life where the only option is to rise up. The Mile 40 podcast strives to remind listeners that the comeback is always greater than the setback. Welcome back to another episode of the Mile 40 podcast. Thank you all for continuing to tune in. It is chilly here in New York, but we are powering through. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, check out the show notes, pick up a copy of Break Barriers or Audacious. You know the drill. I'm going to sign it. I'm going to send it out. Today's guest is a guest I am very excited for. We have Shaquille Roberts. Shaq is a Bronx-based community leader, run and co-founder of Bronx Burners, a nonprofit run club that has raised over $120,000 in scholarships for student athletes. He partners with brands like New Balance to create running content. He's passionate about empowering his community through sports, mentorship, and opportunity. Shaq, my man, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I always feel like the intros on a podcast is very important, and you got a good one. You got a good one.
Of course, bro. I appreciate that. I appreciate you, man. And look, it's funny you say that because I read your bio, and the truth is, I don't know you that well, but I know you. We've met a couple times. We've hung out. I know you through the running
Yeah.
community, but I know you're a lot more than the words that I just read. I know there's a lot more inside. And I started to uncover a little bit of that earlier this year around the release of the documentary that New York Roadrunners released. And I was like, man, like I don't know him as well, as perhaps, I thought, on the surface. So, that's what kind of nudged me to reach out to you and to kind of bring you on, because I feel like, more and more people in our community need to know about you, need to know about what you're doing, the work that you're doing. Bronx Burners has come up on the show before, and I'm a big supporter of what you guys are doing. I think it's incredible, and it's been awesome to watch. And if there's anything that Mile 40 could do to help raise awareness, we're fully on board with that. So let's kick things off a little bit. Tell us a little bit about, yourself. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
From a small Caribbean island in the Caribbean. It's called St. Kitts and Nevis. And I was there until a young age, around 12, when I permanently moved to New York. And I've been in New York ever since. So I do find it funny when people ask me, like, hey, where are you from? Like, and sometimes I give mixed answers, depending on where I'm at. But all my high school friends are like, bro, you're from New York. Like, you went to high school here. Like, you developed it as a human being, a grown up here. Like, you're from New York. But I very much feel like I'm from St. Kitts because I still have friends there, and most of my family's there. And I do visit at least once a year. So
I love that.
I'm a little torn, but I'll leave it at that. I'll let the listeners choose.
Well, I mean, look, St. Kitts has a much better climate. So
True.
Tell me, what propelled the move? Why did you move?
I mean, let my parents tell it. They said it's for a better life, right? They was like it will be more opportunities. I'll have a higher ceiling in terms of like the success I can create. St. Kitts, the population is less than 50,000 people, and the economy is very dependent upon exporting goods and tourism. There's not much like a strong infrastructure in terms of like a big city or anything like that. So they decided, hey, like you have this opportunity. We're gonna give you this opportunity. And when I moved to America, I necessarily didn't think I was gonna be here permanently. I thought I was gonna still be going back and forth. But once I moved here when I was 12, it was just like, okay, you're staying there, and this is like the best decision we're making for you. So that's what prompted that decision for me to like come here and stay here permanently.
What did your parents do when they were in St. Kitts?
My mom, she worked in a hotel. My dad did like construction.
Got it.
Yeah.
And when they made the move here, what was their plan in terms of, getting settled themselves?
Oh, that's a longer, deeper story. So my
Let's
parents never like fully moved here. They my
Okay.
grandmother was the one here, and my dad was the one that would like go back and forth with me. But then he ended up just saying like, the weather sucks. Like, I'm just gonna stay home. And I was like, how do you think I feel? But after they decided like, hey, like we're gonna make this move, my dad went back home. I stayed here, went to school and everything, and I was just living with my grandmother and my uncle.
Got it. And, growing up, what was that like for you? Was that disruptive? How did that impact you emotionally as you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I gained a lot of respect for women and elders in my life, because just being in that setting and coming from like a Caribbean background, it was just always drilled in me to be like respectful to people, like don't talk back to adults, don't necessarily like curse in front of adults. And I was like that outside the home as well. I'm not gonna say like I was an angel. Like I did like talk in class and like make jokes and things like that. But as far as like being raised in that household, it just gave me a type of like resilience and being independent as well. Um, I felt like my grandmother could only like teach me so much and show me so much that a lot of the stuff I also learned outside the house as well.
What was like, especially at that age, right? Like that's a critical age where like
Yeah,
you're forming an identity, like you're figuring yourself out. You're probably going through all sorts of swings emotionally at that point in time. And, that's a tough age to ingrain yourself in a brand new community. So what were some of the key challenges that you faced when it came to just fitting in and figuring it out?
yeah. One of the first one was my accent. Like I had
Yeah,
a Caribbean accent. It's like a Jamaican dialect, like all like most Caribbean countries have. And that was one where I used to get teased a lot. People used to like make fun of that. Second one was I got burnt when I was little, so I had like scars on my body, and I used to get teased about that a lot. And part of it too was like being in a culture where it's like it's a gumbo pot. We know New York. You have people from all across around the world. You have Irish, uh, people from Asia, people from Europe, people from the Caribbean. You have people from South America. Like you have people from all over. So coming from St. Kitts, where like I probably seen one white person like maybe every 2 months or something like that. And then depending on the area I'm going, now going to America where I'm like there's Spanish speaking people. There was just so much variety of different cultures that I was just like, whoa, like what am I? Who do I hang out with? Um, it had a lot of things to do with like Black America and being an immigrant. Like that was a little dynamic switch there where I'm like, okay, I'm Black, but I'm not American. Like I'm from the Caribbean, um, but everybody automatically assumes like you're African. So there was a lot of growing to do around that, and I think it had a positive impact on me. I think from that I learned how to have empathy. I learned a lot about people's different culture and really seeing that we all kind of like have more in common than we don't. And I think when we speak with each other and understand each other, we realize like, hey, we all like good food. We all have seasonings and musics that we like to listen to around holiday time. Like we all do the same thing, but um that language barrier kind of like sometimes separates us and makes us think we're enemies when we're actually not.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that, and it really got the wheels turning because, I didn't think about it till you said it, but, you're Black, but you're not a Black American,
Yeah.
and and it's interesting because you're right, like, especially in a place like New York where it's a melting pot. It's funny because we all recognize it's a melting pot until we realize that we make the mistake sometimes of, you know, looking at someone as yourself and not realizing, like, you weren't raised here and you didn't have the history of a Black American. You had your own history, and now you're figuring out how to combine your history and how to make sense of the way you're probably being perceived, despite the fact that, you know, not everything necessarily applies to you. And now you have to reconcile it, and now you have to manage not only, the local Black community, but the people who, aren't, and then trying to figure out how to navigate that. So that's a, definitely a dynamic that is unique, and one that's, particularly, special to kind of dive into. And I think about that, and I think about how navigating that kind of dynamic, once you overcome those hurdles, uh, really define like a perspective, or really open up a perspective that probably help you carry forward with some of your relationships now. Because you probably laugh off a lot of things
Yeah.
you hear.
I mean, I feel like I've gained a lot of like leadership qualities navigating that space in that way where I'll bring up like a couple examples like saying the N-word, right? Like in St. Kitts, we necessarily don't say the N-word or like talk like that. Um, but coming here, you then realize like, oh, okay, like certain people can say it, certain people can't say it. And then you have instances where I, not that I like have a problem with my identity, but I see other Spanish speaking Caribbean countries like DR, right? Where they'll say like, oh, we're Spanish, but we also are Black and we're also Afro Latina. And it's like all of these things as like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, I'm just like, what? Like, what's it's super confusing. And you end up just being like, I don't care what this person's skin color is or how they talk. It's just like, if this person's kind to me, if this person's nice to me, I'm gonna be kind and nice to them. And that's what ended up happening at my age where I'm just like, my best friend was Dominican, but I also had like other friends that were from Europe that migrated here as well. And it was just like where you look at us and you're like, there will be no other place in the world that these three people could be friends, right? And it's just like we kind of like spoke to each other in a very respectful way, and then we learned a lot from each other. And just navigating that space just gave me a lot of qualities that like I'm grateful to this day because I'm telling you, sometimes I walk around and I'm like, damn, this person like never spoke to someone out of their culture. Like you could tell when
Yeah,
some people like just never left their neighborhood.
yeah. No, I mean, I agree. It's a beautiful thing that, before we had this conversation, I didn't, I didn't know we were gonna go here, but I think it's really enlightening to hear, because you're right. Like, a lot of people haven't left their I was talking to my parents yesterday because 'cause we're figuring out, like, where we're sending our kids to school, and, I was talking about, the way that we were raised and the community that we were raised in, and, then being an adult and moving into more diverse areas, and kind of experiencing it, and really seeing the value of being able to work with all kinds of people and to learn and understand and, bridge gaps and figure out
Right.
areas where you can relate. I'm telling my parents, as we're looking at our children's future, I'm like, it's so important for us to figure out how to best set them up for success where they can experience and see and speak and learn to love and collaborate and empathize with people of all kinds of backgrounds. And it's funny because you had the unique opportunity of coming from St. Kitts, being able to then kind of work with people, who are black and people who identify, depending on where they are, and figure out ways to be a chameleon of sorts.
Yeah.
A-
Yeah.
And that probably unexpectedly ended up being as challenging as it may have been at times. It unexpectedly ended up probably being a gift.
Yeah, I
Um,
wouldn't change it at all for anything. Like
yeah,
I it was hard in the moment, but now looking back, I see like right, like how much I've benefited from that.
yeah.
And like being in the running community too is part of that, right? Like it's just like we're all traveling the world, learning different languages, going to different countries, and being open to communicate with someone that is a runner, someone that like is a lot like the marathon, right? Where you run into a random person at mile 23 and then y'all both are hurting and then y'all both finish the race together. And it's like, you just can't get that everywhere.
That's right. Humanity comes alive, man. I mean, like that's the thing is like we could talk about that for a whole podcast in and of itself. You're right. Like
Yeah.
the people that you run into mile 20, mile 23, the people that are, carrying you home, you're not looking at what they look like, what their age
At
is,
all.
you don't care. You don't
Right.
care.
At
You
all.
you don't care. I mean, like, they could have a criminal history for all you care. You don't care. Like, you literally do not
Right.
care. But in that moment, the one thing you know is that you're both in pain and you're both in pain together, and you're both carrying each other home, and it doesn't matter. Um, I did want to ask you, as you brought it up, you brought up the burns. Talk to us a little bit about the burns, and what happened there.
Yeah, when I was younger, at around age 5, I got caught in a house fire. In the Caribbean, my grandfather he used to make something, excuse me, similar to like moonshine. And one day we had a accident in the house, and the house like went up in flames, and I got caught in it. And then I went into the hospital, and I was in the hospital for about in and out the hospital for about 2 3 years. And then like the full process with like physical therapy and everything like that. Probably I'll probably say until like the age of 8 was the age where really felt like I could like run around and do things because I had like a cast on my hand. I had a couple skin grafts that they really couldn't do them all at once because I was like so small, like I was 5 years old. And it just changed my life in a way that I never thought that like looking back now, I never thought it would be such an inspiration or such a like a good thing because at that age it just looked at like it was all bad. It was like all like couldn't really do much sports activities at that age with those injuries, was getting teased, feeling left out, just like not living like a kid, a life like a normal kid. Like my life was just so much different from my family members. I was just like, why am I always in the hospital? Why am I always hurt? Why can't I go to like, I remember one year my family went to this water park and I like couldn't get in the water because of my burns. And I was just like, why am I even here?
Probably killed you on the inside.
Yeah. And I think like through all of that, I just developed a certain personality about me. I developed a certain resilientness of just like, I'm gonna go to the water park one day and be able to go in the water. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna walk straight again. And just throughout that whole process, I'll say like all that was fueling me was just like, I want to be able to do these things that I see other people doing.
Was there a moment when it clicked for you where it was like, "Hey, like, enough's enough. Like, I'm gonna figure this out." Like, I'll give you an example. In my own journey, much different, but navigate cancer as a child, similar situation where you dealt with the bullying, the being different, the being told that you can't. The water park example for a different reason because I had a tube coming out, so I couldn't go in, and I couldn't go in certain wet environments. Like I feel that. But the one thing I do remember is I hit a moment after I had a brain surgery when I was 13 where I was in the recovery room, and it's like one of the darkest things is coming out of brain surgery because like you're just in so much pain, and it really is kinda like one of those, like, rock bottom moments, and it was in that moment where I kinda, like, made an innate promise to myself, and I said, "Alright, like, that's it. Whatever life puts in front of me from this point forward, like, I'm gonna figure out to overcome." And I'm not saying that, like, you necessarily have to have, like, one moment like that, but was there, like, an event that you remember, or was there a series of events as a child, where maybe you kinda hit your limit, and it was like, "Alright, guys, like, that's it. Like I've you've given me all I need to take. Now watch
Yeah.
me."
Yeah. One moment I would say is like, this is where I was like, all right, this is never like happening again. It was I was in the hospital and I was in America. And I had like when like just came out of surgery, and I don't know if the nurses was mad at me or what, but they gave you like a button to press.
Hmm.
Because I was like,
The morphine button.
no, this one was to like call them. This was like
Oh,
to
okay,
to like
fine. Sorry, different button.
yeah. um, maybe I had that button too. But this one was to like call them,
Yeah.
and they weren't coming. I like had to pee really bad because I was like tied up, and I ended up peeing on myself, and I ended up feeling like so hopeless, like as a kid, just being like, I can't even help myself right now. Like I'm just sitting here in my pee. Um, and from that point on, I just told myself like I would like try my best to not need people and try my best to just like pull myself up by my bootstraps, right? As like as independent and as bad as it sounds, um, I just felt so hopeless in that moment, and I had so much shame around that that I was just like, I cannot be in this position like ever again. And from then on, I was just like super competitive. Like anything I wanted to do related to sports, I would just like try to be the best because that's another thing. I got so much attention and so much love when I did win and when I did do good at sports that it was kind of making up for all of the other things that I was missing. It was just like, wow, people do show love, people do cheer for you, and people do these things. And that's when sports became like uh an outlet for me to just be like, okay, yeah, you could say I got burnt. Yeah, you could say whatever about my skin. But once we get in between those lines or we get on that court, there's no one cares. It's either you're gonna make the shot or you're gonna win the race or you're gonna catch the ball. Like that's all that matters is results at that point. So I just came obsessed with sports.
Yeah. No, and thank you for sharing that story because I think that really brings us in the room with you, and I think a lot of us, you know, can understand the power of that moment and the depth that that might take you to internally, and, that's like that's when it's unleashed, right? Like you kind of like the world sometimes unleashes the animal inside of you where it's like, all right, like this is it. Like I'm not gonna let myself, get to this point ever again. So long as I can control it. Um, we're gonna move on to your athletic career. Before we go there really quick, I do want to ask: was your grandma your main influence in terms of like keeping you centered, maybe keeping you away from getting in trouble, or trying to remind you, or just the person who instilled the values in you during that period of identity formation that was like, hey, like this is who you are, this is the person that you're meant to be, like don't run away from this person.
I would say yes, because when I was living in St. Kitts, I was living with my grandmother on my mother's side. And when I moved to New York, I was living with my grandmother on my father's side. And I would say both of them were super needed. I think I'll say that the point where it was a crossword for me, like deciding, am I going to go the route of being like a troublemaker and not listening to anybody, and versus like, hey, I'm gonna like actually do something with my life. Um, Sports actually saved my life. Um, Basketball was really my outlet and really the sport that I was like, oh, I'm gonna play this. Like, I'm gonna go to college and play this. And in school, I didn't notice my freshman year. Um, like I made the varsity team, super hype, everything is going great. But I didn't know you had to pass a certain amount of classes to stay on the team. And I literally used to like cut class, think I was like the super cool dude doing all this extra stuff. And then I got kicked off the team. And again, right, life turned into like something totally different, right? I wasn't getting the same recognition. I'm not on the basketball team anymore. No one really cared about me anymore. So I then turned into like this view of saying like, oh, Shaq is just a class clown. He's just like a troublemaker. He's just an instigator. And I necessarily didn't want to be known for that. So the next year I was like, I'm doing whatever it takes to like get back on this basketball team because again, that's the only way I got attention. That's the only way like I felt like people were showing me love or people even cared about anything I had to do or anything I had to say. So um I'll say that is what like turned my mind. But very much so my grandmother's uh instilled like respect and hard work in me. And I can never take that for granted because honestly, because of them is a lot of reasons why I didn't like, how should I say this? Hate the world, right? Like I had so
Yeah.
many excuses to be mad at the world and be like,
Yeah.
F it.
That's what
Like
I'm getting
I'm
at with regards to
yeah,
being centered. It's like you had every excuse to kinda, you know, be like, "F it,"
yeah.
you know?
I could have been just like so some, and not saying like someone with like mental health issues is not like under control, but I'm just saying I could have just been like a kid that's acting out and everyone be like, it's okay, like he got burned or like he's had a rough time. Like making it not excuses, but
Exactly.
giving me reasons to
Giving
say
you an
like, hey,
out.
like yeah.
Yeah.
Um and they definitely kept me centered with that of just being like, you are loved, you are they all the encouragement you could think of. But also just like me getting older, I'm like, of course they gotta say that. They're like my family members. Like, of course they gotta like treat me nice. But they very much let me know I could do anything and just like continue to push.
Did you have any siblings?
I had a little brother, but he was born when I was already in America. Yeah, so I didn't really grow up with him or develop a relationship with him at a young age.
Got it, got it. Are you guys do you guys speak now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're super cool now. Like every time I go back to St. Kitts, we hang out. I remember one of the first times we met. Uh, like he wanted to go everywhere with me, and I was like, "Damn, this is what it's like to like have a little brother." Because he was just like, anytime I came home, he was like, "Where you going? Can I come? Let's go here. Let's go there." And it was just like, um, super fun to see that dynamic. Because I've like grown up with friends that had multiple siblings, and um, it was just now me in their shoes. It just felt like weird and funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that it's you're right. And I'm sure, like, watching him also gives you more perspective. Like, you've got, like, a pocket full of just different experiences in your life and different circumstances, which really, enable you to see the world in such a special way. Um, how did your athletic career end up playing out? Like basketball wise specifically?
True story. Got to college, uh, tried out, was a walk on. Then I got kicked out of school. Silly mistake. Uh, for Halloween, me and my friends we went to Walmart and was getting Halloween stuff and stuff like that. And like upstate New York, you could get like a BB gun. Just
Yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah. Wait, where did you go to school?
I went to school in Syracuse. I went to
Okay.
Onondaga
Okay. Got
Community
it. Yep.
College. Yeah.
I went to Geneseo for my undergrad.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like super close to each other, like
Yeah,
hour away or
Onondaga
whatever.
was actually the name of the building for my first dorm room. Like, it was like the Onondaga building or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it was like super easy to get a BB gun. We got one, and long story short, one of my friends, he was trying to shoot a garbage can on campus, and he ended up like shooting like a glass window that was like next to it. And they looked at the cameras, riled, like got us all together, and it was like, okay, we're suspending you for this semester and next semester. You'll be able to come back fall of 2026, right? Um, and I just couldn't do that. Like I just couldn't like take a semester off, a semester and a half off. Um, so by the grace of God, my I love her so much. Cami Andrews, she was one of my coaches in high school. She basically was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was going to school to be like in marketing or something like that. And I was like, I really like these computer classes. Like, I would like want to do that more. And then she was like, okay. I looked up a couple of programs. There's this like uh, computer tech, like basically boot camp. Like you go for 3 months and you get a couple certifications and they get you like job placement and things like that. And from that point on, I like never looked back. My whole career has been about IT instead of marketing, which I went to school for. So
Wow.
that
So
was the turning point right there of like my basketball beliefs.
oh, I saw at the end of your basketball career. Did you ever end up going back to school, or did you just go through this program and then kinda just launch yourself into a tech career?
Yeah, I just launched myself into the tech career and just kept getting certifications. I did let her know that I do want to go back to school because again, I'll be the first person in my family to graduate from college. So it will be like a great accomplishment to get that done.
When you found out, like, the consequences, of the incident, I'm interested, like, inside of you, was there, like, any sort of imposter syndrome around, like, "I wasn't destined to graduate anyway, like, no one in my family graduated," like, so it
Yeah.
probably didn't hurt you as much as it may have hurt someone else.
I mean, like, it was one of those things where you like, how can I not get out my way? Like, why do I just keep messing up? Like, why I keep uh, having situations like this? But Cammy, she also like, she was very sweet. And it took everything in me to make that phone call because I called her before I called my grandmother. Um, and I was like, listen, this is a situation. I'm getting kicked out. I'm not really proud of it. I don't know who to tell. And she was like, which is pretty like true. She was like, if you were white and your dad gave money to that school, they probably would have like slapped you in the wrist and you would have been fine. Um, but because you're black, like they're just gonna throw the book at you. Um, and she was like, but it's fine. Like we all make mistakes and we can move past it. And it was very much so like, yeah, we're in this silly, dumb situation, but it's what we do next. And that really like shaped me a lot as well. Like it was just like, yeah, this happened, and I'm not gonna bash you and beat you down like a dead horse and be like, you're F up, like you'll never be anything. It was just like, this happened, let's move on. Let's find the next thing to do. And it really was sad that I like got kicked out and was really down on myself, but it was my guardian angel just looking out for me because again, right, our mind tell each other ourselves stories about like the worst, right? We think the worst of ourselves, we're like our worst critics. So she was there to like balance that out and just let me know like it's not all on your shoulders. Like you could put some on my shoulders. And I think for the listeners, like you need to find someone to carry that weight with you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you're right. Yeah, and a lot of people out there are probably, thinking to themselves right now, like, do I have someone like that? And if not, like, how do I go about, forming that kind of bond? You know, I remember like when I was younger, I used to do a lot more stupider stuff all the time, and I used to always think about like who I'd call if I had to call someone. Uh, and like I think that's an exercise we should all do.
Right.
Because you never
Like,
know.
yo, I'm in
You
a jam right now. Like,
you
I
ne
just,
you never know when you're gonna be in a bind, and, this is a little bit of a sidestep, but, uh, up at school, was there diversity up there? Like, when I went to that region, there wasn't much diversity, and the reason I asked for it is because, like, you brought up the fact that she mentioned, like, if you're white, you could probably, write a check and figure out a way to mitigate the consequences, so on and so forth. But I'm asking because after it happened, in the immediate aftermath, was there any sort of, did you deal with like any sort of discrimination afterwards?
it was definitely a white school. Like the only colored people, kids that were there were from the city. Like
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
only kids from Brooklyn or
yeah, yeah,
uh, Bronx or Manhattan, and then
yeah,
you realize like we all kind of also stuck together because it was just
yeah.
like,
Because you get, I
oh, you
mean,
from the
up,
city
it's a
too?
different world up there. Like they
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
get it. They don't get it up there. I mean,
right.
like it's a different world up there. You
Listen,
feel you
I
even
never
though you're
thought
both from New York, it's like a different language.
right, and I was like, I never thought like I would become good friends with like kids from Brooklyn, but I did. I was like, yo, y'all from Brooklyn, I'm from the Bronx. And then even when I came back to the city, we kind of still hung out sometimes. Like I'm pretty good friends with some of the kids that I met up there from Harlem. And it was just like, oh, like when we go back to the city, we gotta hang out. So
I
it
think
was
that's gonna
very
be the
much
soundbite from this episode. I never thought I'd be friends with the kids from Brooklyn. So, like,
right.
I think that's gonna be the soundbite there because again, people outside of New York won't get it, but it makes perfect sense.
Right.
But I love that. Hey all, it's me, Bishoy. As a marathon runner and endurance athlete, I've come to understand the importance of properly fueling your body for preparation and recovery. Every day, you get a shot at success. How you start your day typically paints a picture of what the rest of the day will look like. Start your day with a super convenient, healthy, and delicious nutritional win. Meal One by Creatures of Habit. Overnight oatmeal packed with 30 grams of plant-based protein, chia, flax, and pumpkin seeds. Vitamin D3, omega-3s, a probiotic, and digestive enzymes made in under 1 minute. Stop wasting time or worrying about what to eat as your first meal of the day. Start with Meal One. Visit creaturesofhabit.com, creatures spelled with a K, and use code MILE40 for 15% off a one-time purchase or the first subscription order payment. Man, thank you a lot for like I really appreciate you opening up about all this stuff, and it really teaches me a lot about you, and I can just keep going deeper, but I want to make sure that we open up the door on what you're up to today, Bronx Burners for sure. So talk to me a little about the beginning of your running journey. We talked about, basketball kind of being the sport that meant a lot to you in your high school, early college years. When did running kind of become a part of your life?
Yeah, running became part of my life literally 2 years ago. I wasn't a big long distance runner. Let me say that. But being from the Caribbean, of course, we like sprinting and the short distance stuff. But just to give a couple of the timeline, like literally my first job after the boot camp is the organization I work at now, which is the Bronx Defenders. I've been there as a public defender law firm in the Bronx, and I've been there since 2017. Uh, Funny enough, I moved in with some of my coworkers, and there were three attorneys. So it was pretty like a fun dynamic to be around attorneys, listen to them talk and all that stuff. And they do love to argue. So I want to make that very clear. And one of them was a long distance runner. He was a marathon runner, and his fastest marathon was like sub 227, sub 226. And I'm like, I can never do that. Mind you, I'm living with him. He gets up, run 10 miles every day. And I'm like, yo, I can never do this. And all the things you see on the news too are the winners. Like you see the fast people. So I'm like, you know what? Um, I'll just chill and just do my own thing. And then the pandemic happened, and we were like drinking, playing board games for like the first 3 months. But then like that got old really fast. Like we were like, yo, we can't do this anymore. Like we got to do something else. So he was like, all right, I'll take y'all on a run. And we went on a couple runs, like 3 miles, barely could finish it. Like I was doing like maybe like, it took me like 35 minutes, 35 minutes to 30 minutes to finish 3 miles. So I'm just like walking some of the times, hurting some of the times. And then after that, we end up like separating. We end up moving out, getting our own spots. And then in 2022, one of my other friends ran the New York City Marathon, and he ran it like in just like 4 hours or just under 4 hours. And I was like, what the, wait a minute. I could do that. I probably can't like win or run like two 235 or 220, but I definitely could do 4 hours. And I'm like, how did you do it? And then he was like, I ran some of it, I walked some of it. I'm like, you could do that? And he was like,
Huh.
yeah. Because I always thought in my head, like, you had to race the
Yeah,
marathon.
you got
Like,
the
you just
vision
had,
of like the guys that are like running it.
yeah. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm wasting like my talent because I do feel like I'm gifted athletically. And I'm like, if this person could just say like I'm gonna do the marathon and like finish it, like I should like try my best to like get the best out of this body I can. So call my old roommate up. I'm like, yo, I need you to train me. And then we started training. And basically I started falling down the wormhole of like the Abbott World Majors and what it takes to get into Boston and all the good stuff. And I was like, you know what? Like I want to go for sub 3 on my first marathon. And he's like, you're crazy, but let's do it. Um, First marathon, LA 2023. Um, if you see what I had on, you'd be like, this is the first time running for sure. I had on like a tank top. I had on like some short Nike like shorts, and then like I did have some Alpha Flies. I did have some Alpha Flies, but I was just like young and naive, and I'm just like
There's nothing
taking
like the
off.
delusion of a first time marathoner.
Yeah.
The delusion of it because like especially one who trains for the first time,
Yeah,
like you're like, all right, like I did it. Like I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna show the world. Like
I'm
so
gonna show
tell
the
us,
world, right?
how did the story end?
I literally start cramping up at like mile 20, mile 22. And my coach is like, have you been fueling? What's going on? And I'm like, I've been trying my best. Like, and I literally start crying. And I'm like, this is not fair. Cause I did train, I did run, but I didn't know about the fueling part. I didn't know you're supposed to be taking in this amount of calories, this amount of sugar, or whatever the case may be. I was just like, all right, I'll drink when I'm feeling thirsty or when I'm feeling ready. Um, and after that, I was like, okay, I'm going again for New York. I'm gonna try in New York. And then you realize New York is one of the hardest courses. You're like, why am I running these bridges and hills trying to sprint? And it's been a lovely journey from there. It's been a lovely journey from there.
Wait, so what was the time?
3:22. 3:22 was my first
3:22 on your
marathon.
first race is not bad. What's your PR today?
3 hours
Okay, so you're
flat.
still you're
Yeah.
still you're still going for that sub three.
Yeah, I ran 3:31 uh in October this year.
Okay, got it, got it. All right, all
Yeah.
right.
3 hours and 31 seconds. I was like,
What? Wait, October was that Chicago?
no, that was Mohawk Valley. It was the same day as
Okay,
Chicago.
got it, got it. Wow. All
Yeah.
right, all right. So you're right there. What?
I'm
What's
right
what's?
there. I'm right there.
I know you're gunning for Tokyo right now. Is there anything that's officially on the calendar right now, or are you waiting to see what happens with Tokyo?
I'm waiting to see what happens in Tokyo.
Okay,
But Tokyo, I'm trying to go 250.
okay. Have you heard anything about Tokyo? About like the course? Like I ran it last year. So
Hmm.
Tokyo itself, the course is fine, but like they they do the silent claps over there. So it's like nothing like
Okay.
New York. So you're gonna have to be your own hype man over there.
Okay. 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 I feel that. I feel that. I feel that. I I kind of heard that too, and I was like, damn, like I should be fine. But let's
There,
see,
there's no
because
there's no roar at mile 17.
yeah, it was like Mohawk Valley was like on a trail. So
Yeah.
there wasn't much people on there
Yeah.
cheering either. So I
All
think
right,
I would
good.
be
Good. So you're
fine.
prepared for that. Talk to us now about Bronx Burners. Talk to us about the birth of Bronx Burners.
Yes. As you had on this podcast before, Rob Dalto, my co-founder, um, sometimes people on the internet don't think like we randomly met in the park, but
I
yeah,
think
we
you guys are
ran.
brothers from other mothers. Like you guys are
Yeah.
like, and like
We
even
like
when the first time I met you, Rob like introduced me to you, like, and I was like, you get the sense that you guys have known each other forever.
Yeah, yeah. Like it I can't explain it. I really can't. Maybe y'all listening to my story, y'all can see why I could walk up to a stranger and like get along with them. But he was in Central Park and he had a sign up that said, if you're running a New York City Marathon, like wave. And I waved and he said, hey, come on over. Like, I promise you, I'm not trying to sell you anything. Like, can we have a quick chat? And this was coming off the LA Marathon. So this was me training for New York that year. And we were chatting and we were talking. And I was like, hey, like, I kind of cramped up during my first marathon. And this is what my training's been like. And he was like, hey, I'll I'll help you with your fuel if you would like. He was like, he just offered it. I was like, okay, say less. Like, let's do it. And then one Saturday we went out for a long run and we were trying everything. We were doing gels, pickle juice, chews, everything. Great news is I was well fueled, but the bad news is I don't know what it was. What was which one really worked? Um, and after that, we started hanging out like outside of like just running. We started like going to the gym together. We started just chatting, and then I kind of told him like I wish I got into like running faster because when I was younger, like in the Bronx, no one really talks about long distance running. Like it's basketball, football, like it's like LeBron James, like people are inspiring to be like
Yeah,
those type of people, right? And
yeah,
no one's inspiring to be like Eliud Kipchoge. No one's like
yeah,
having Eliud Kipchoge in their wall. Like I want to be like him.
yeah,
And I told him I was like, I want to do that for the Bronx. I want to like make long distance running cool and make it like accessible and something that we could do or something like we could be part of. And he was like, okay, like let's do it. And I was like, what? How are we gonna do that? And he was like, where you used to work out or do track when you were younger? And I was like, at this park like across the street from Yankee Stadium. And he was like, all right, let's just go there and like see who's there. And mind you, I'm like, I don't
yeah,
know why this white guy want to help me. Like, I don't know what's
yeah,
going on. But I'm just going with it. I'm just like, all right, let's do it then. Then one day we went out to the park. We saw two kids there, and we ended up going up to them, saying like, "Hey, you guys training for anything? You guys running for anything?" And um, one of them was like, "Yeah, he's training, but is like his school doesn't host like off season practices, like so he just has to train on his own. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna be here every Wednesday moving forward this summer. And if you want to come by and bring some of your track friends as well, you're welcome to come by. So I end up racing with them and almost getting hurt, but the next week they came back. And then we also saw some people on the track that we were like, hey, y'all want to run with us? Y'all want to train with us? They also say yes. And from that day on, we just grew from 4 or 5 members to now we're 150 plus. So it's been a crazy journey to say the least. And part of the journey is meeting the community where it's at and filling the gaps where we can. Because that first summer that we started, one of our first athletes that we actually walked up to, his name is Isaiah. He was supposed to go to Georgia for school and ended up having some housing issues, and he ended up couldn't go. So me and Rob was like, how can we help? Like, what can we do? And Rob was like, we should start like a scholarship fund. And I'm like, Rob, I don't know nobody with money, but I guess we could do it. And then he was like, once we get like traction, he told me a whole plan. He was like, we could get some traction on social media, we could reach out to brands, we could do all these things. And um, Rob, I genuinely love that man because he has taught me so much in terms of the social media realm, and so much in terms of like being a good leader and being able to like find gaps and fill gaps, and just having that belief that you can do what you say you're gonna do. So we ended up raising $3,000, and we gave that out the weekend before the marathon. And from that point on, Bronx Burners was on the map, and we took off from there.
Shout out to Rob, man. I mean, for the listeners out there, I just looked it up. Episode 56 of Mile 40. That's when I interviewed him. But the one thing I've experienced with Rob, throughout the last couple of years of knowing him, running with him, running into him at, different races all across the world now, and the various interactions we have, is the fact that um, it he attracts people through his, his goodwill and his humanity, right? Like, you could tell, like, there's a lot of people out there who wanted to become influencers and became influencers. He is influential organically because he just attracts goodness. Like, like
Right.
he's the kind of person who, ran because of a personal reason when he talks about his father and the death of his father. And he talks about, his goal at that time and the way that he's kind of fostered his community. You can't help but pay attention. You can't help but want to help. And that's how it should be done, in my opinion. Right? Like, that's how you want, if you're building something like this, that's how you want it to be done. You want people to be organically attracted to what it is that you're building. And so appreciate you, you know, giving us that background. So now, how many years total has it been since you became an official organization?
It's been, I want to say, a year and a half, because it took us like 6 months to get the IRS to like notify us to be like a nonprofit. But um from day one, I'll say we're at like officially a year and probably 9 months. Yeah.
What's been your biggest, like, surprise? Like, what blew you away the most from this experience, from, getting out there for your first marathon to uh building Bronx Burners? I feel like you just keep leveling up, right? And uh
Mhm.
I I'm sure you said it yourself, like, you realized you had untapped potential athletically and you didn't want it to go to waste. But you probably didn't foresee everything that has happened, right? Like, you probably didn't ever envision, getting to this place in your career as a runner, and building something as special as Bronx Burners. And, I think that as you kind of experience one thing after the other, you push the goalpost down. You're like, all right, like maybe we could do this, maybe we can do that. You know, talk to me about like along the path. Maybe it's something that you're particularly grateful for. Maybe it's something that like you were like, wow, like I didn't see this coming.
I'll say I didn't see raising a hat or like I'll say I'm choking up now, but I didn't see us doing like the numbers we are doing. So today we have raised over $250,000. We have gave out over 30 scholarships. We have sponsored basketball teams. And I'm gonna do a little side note on that. So New York has like a big basketball like summer tournaments all across the city. And I played in them when I was younger. And it's because like some elder in the neighborhood was like, okay, I'll sponsor a team, right? And sponsoring a team probably costs six to like $800 because of the jersey costs. Um, and sometimes tournaments have to go less teams because they don't get sponsors. And I was like, we have to sponsor a team because I want, even though like these kids may not want to be part of the run club, they may not want to like come run with us, but I think there's a need for that, and I think we should be able to fill that gap, and we did that. We've sent kids to summer camp. We've like paid for kids' school lunches. We have done programming with parents and their kid, basically going into a Liverpool program where they teach them leadership skills and help them to get into college. We've done uh, classes with Peloton. We've done so much that I I still can't believe all of this started because of running. I still can't believe it started because like, hey, we're gonna like go there and try to be a run club. And now where our hands are in the community, like we hosted a race this year. We planted trees in the park with NYC Parks, partnering with NYC Parks. We have done like so much for the community other than hosting like weekly running practices. And I think that's the part I really didn't see. I thought it was just gonna be like, hey, like we're here running and I'm gonna be training people and basically showing them how to get into races with New York Road Runners, showing them how to qualify for the marathon. Because I think part of it is that, right? The not knowing part. And I think my community is not that they don't want to be runners. I just think
There's a
they
lack of
don't know
awareness.
yeah, they
Yeah.
just don't have that awareness. And I think once they got that, the sky's the limit. I had one runner this year. His name was Usman. Shout out to Usman.
I know
He
Usman.
ran 3 world majors
Yep.
in 1 year.
Yep.
Like
Yep. He was in was he in Sydney? He was in Sydney.
he was in Sydney, he was in
Yeah.
Chicago, and he ran New York.
Yeah. I
Mind
saw him
you,
in Sydney and in New York. Yeah. He's a man. He's a good dude.
yeah, and this what that was his first marathon. Like, and Bronx Burners sponsored that. Him and Paola went out
Yeah.
there.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
realize that you guys sponsored it.
yeah, we paid for their flights and we were in partnership with Sydney Marathon. They gave us bibs for them.
That's amazing. That seems like that is amazing. That like people who are listening to this who are not as familiar with the running world and you know how difficult it is to get into races to begin with, and the barrier of entry and building awareness, especially in a community where running is not the number one sport. You know, it's all and I don't know, maybe you could speak to this, like, the impact that Bronx Burners has had on Bronx and the Bronx in general, but, like, I run the New York City Marathon every year, and you could tell I've run it every year since 2017 with the exception of 1 year. The energy in the Bronx every single year gets better and better and better, and that says something, and I'm sure that you all have a hand in doing that, directly or indirectly,
Yeah,
and that's important. Shaq, man, I'm so grateful for you. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you for everything, man. I could talk to you for days, but just want to call out as we wrap things up here. you know, Going into this conversation, I knew we were going to talk about what we talked about over the last 5 minutes, but I think it was the first 55 minutes that really, set the stage here. You're defined by the impact that you're having on other people who you probably didn't think that you were going to reach at some point in your life, as you tried to figure out who you were on your own and, trying to figure out, what your own, calling and purpose was. And I think it really comes full circle. And the the irony of it is it came full circle in a sport, that maybe at one point in your life, you had no way of relating to. And now, it means, a significant amount to who you are and the person that you're becoming. So I just want to say thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me and just shining some light on the Bronx Burners and shining some light on the good work that's being done. And we just we need more podcasts like this where it's just about like, hey, spreading the word and having that knowledge like spread out there so people can know like, hey, this is being done in this community. And I think people want to be a part of that. People want to be a part of a community.
Absolutely. Everybody listening, check out Shaq, check out Bronx Burners, support if you can. It's an organization we all got to keep an eye on. And so, peace out for now. See you guys later. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode of the Mile 40 podcast, go ahead, subscribe, leave a review, and share the word. Thank you for being a part of the Mile 40 family. And let's unite in showing the world that comebacks are always greater than setbacks.